First, he was removed from office. Now, Imran Khan is in prison. The former Pakistani leader has been convicted of corruption and barred from elections for 5 years. So, is this the end of Imran Khan's political career? And what's behind his downfall? This is Inside Story. Welcome to the program. I'm Cyril Vanier. He was once Pakistan's most powerful politician. But Imran Khan, the country's former prime minister, is now in prison. His supporters say political persecution fueled his arrest. Reactions are mixed, particularly in light of his contentious legal battles. The arrest comes ahead of elections, which some fear could lead to social unrest. So, will this end Imran Khan's political career? And will it further deepen divisions among Pakistan's political parties? We'll discuss with our guests after this report by Katya Lopez-Hodayan.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan knew his arrest was imminent. Before being detained and sentenced to 3 years in prison, he recorded a message urging his supporters to hold peaceful protests.
If you do not stand up for your rights, you will live like slaves. Slaves have no lives of their own. Slaves are like ants on the ground.
Demonstrations followed, with Khan's supporters calling his arrest unwarranted.
I think his arrest is part of a conspiracy. People were hopeful when Imran Khan was Prime Minister. Now that he's no longer in office, people are worried under this new government. The inflation rate has doubled.
The 70-year-old cricketer turned politician is accused of selling state gifts he received as prime minister for his own profit, from high-end watches to jewelry worth nearly $500,000. Khan says the allegations are politically motivated and led by the military, who he's openly criticized in the past.
You cannot have a system where the prime minister has the responsibility, but he does not have the authority to implement his policies because that authority is shared with the military.
The military has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and says it's not trying to stop him from running for office in November. Some members of rival parties say Khan's actions have backfired.
The judge is the one who is best positioned to make a decision. But Mr. Khan should have shown some resilience in politics. He started picking fights with people the minute he came to power, trying to corner people and making enemies. He should have shown some flexibility.
It's the second time this year Khan has been arrested. He was detained in May in a separate case that sparked widespread unrest. His supporters came out in the tens of thousands. But now it's unclear if this conviction will end the political career of one of the most famous men in Pakistan. Katya Lopez-Hodayan for Inside Story.
All right, let's bring in our guests. They're all joining us from Pakistan. Shandana Gulzar Khan, Joint Secretary of the opposition PTI party, joins us. Now, that's Imran Khan's party, to be clear, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Taimur, Talpur, you are with the Pakistan People's Party. You're the Minister for Forest and Wildlife in Sindh province. Also joining us is Azeema Cheema, founding director of Verso Consulting firm. Now, you had a policy analysis there, specifically on conflict, fragility and violence. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Shandana Gulzar Khan, if I can start with you, have you received or has your party received any information from Imran Khan himself in the last 24 hours since he's been jailed?
Yes, his lawyers went to see him today in the Attock jail where he's being kept. But unfortunately, his lawyers were turned away without them being able to secure a power of attorney from him. So probably they'll try again tomorrow. But this is just another incident in the long list of persecution or witch hunt that is taking place against Imran Khan. Every president in Pakistan, according to the constitution, has the right to have a lawyer and access to the due process of law. Not allowing him to meet his lawyers and being able to sign that power of attorney just tells you what this is all about.
What's his legal team going to do? I understand they are appealing. Am I right?
Absolutely. They are going to appeal. This is a Facebook judgment. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just wondering what was the legal path for them and for Imran Khan?
It's funny because you know how you have this term kangaroo courts? Well, we've got our own term that's called a Facebook court. The trial judge in this particular trial of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, if I say the real Prime Minister Imran Khan, he put up rather juvenile posts on Facebook making caricatures of Khan. Now, normally that's fine. We all have a right to have our political opinion, but not when you're the judge presiding over Imran Khan's case. A mini scandal took place. The judge tried to delete his account. He tried to delete those pictures. Even now, if you write to Facebook, within 90 days, they still have access to all records of who posts what. We all have snapshots of that. So you can imagine how that particular dispute started. Then, in a case like this, a sham in which Khan is accused of selling his own property, legally acquired, duly paid, taxes included and declared, he's not allowed to present witnesses in that particular case. So what do? Khan goes to the Islamabad High Court and he put in a revision application that why is it that he's being singled out in Pakistan for not being able to present witnesses in his defense in a case in which he's been charged by the state? Then the Islamabad High Court gives a week to allow him to process this entire application. And all of a sudden, the same Islamabad High Court decides and orders the trial court to finish the hearing within a day, which means he has no witnesses, no defense, and they can announce his punishment and arrest him. So everything at this point is impugned. This case will not stand the light of day in any high court in Pakistan or in the Supreme Court, provided Khan meets his lawyers and he gets to sign his power of attorney.
Okay. And it is certainly the case that many lawyers, including in Pakistan, that have been interviewed by Pakistani media have said that there are many issues in this case about due process and whether Imran Khan received due process in this case. That's the substance of the case.
There wasn't any due process.
And of course, and we understand that that's your point of view. The substance of this case is another matter. We can talk about that a little later if you'd like. But I'd like to bring in Taimur Talpur. As I said, governing member of the governing PPP party. You're a minister in Sindh province. How do you feel about Imran Khan being jailed? And look, this is not a naive question. I understand he's a political rival. I understand there's no love lost there. He is, however, the most popular politician in the country, and I wonder how you reflect on that now that he's in jail.
As far as the popularity you're talking about is much doubted right now, because
well, he's won most of the elections he ran in recently.
Well, he's not popular anymore because he's come out to be as a man who was bringing himself back to the chair of the Prime Minister on the cost of the country. So we have never seen in the history of Pakistan someone who will compromise on the principles of your country, on the economy of your country. He did all he could to hurt the country and its economy, and the people know it very well. And that is very well factual now because you know Mr. Khan has been arrested, and since he's been arrested, there have been no protests anywhere, no peaceful protests, no peaceful rallies, and that makes it quite clear that he is not very popular anymore. And you should also keep in mind that 80% of his members of parliament, his former federal ministers, his provincial ministers, have all left him and deserted him, and they've made new parties. Some are silent. So you cannot call him popular, I believe. As far as his conviction is concerned, we all know very well how corrupt he was. We have proof of all the corruption he's done, and no politician in Pakistan to date has ever fallen into the nitty-gritties of corruption which Mr. Khan unwantedly fell into or wantedly fell into. We have the proofs there, and the law is taking its course. Of course, as a Pakistani, he has the right to defend himself. He has the best lawyers in town working for him. So I'm sure there is no way you can think of something unjust going wrong with him. Of course, he is the person who said he will put everyone behind bars, and he did put President Zardari behind bars. His sister Faryal Talpur Sahiba behind bars. He put Nawaz Sharif, Shehbaz Sharif, Maryam Nawaz, everyone behind bars. So I think it's a taste of his own poison he's getting to get right now.
Yeah, that's a bit of a trend in Pakistan over the last 10 plus years, just over 10 years. I mean, 3 Pakistani leaders have been barred from running for office by the courts. Of course, Imran Khan is the latest. Before that, there was the PPP's Yusuf Raza Gilani and the PMLN's Nawaz Sharif. So it's certainly not something that's just limited to Imran Khan, something that does seem to occur pretty frequently in Pakistan. Azeema Cheema, I turn to you. Mr. Talpur was telling us that Imran Khan is no longer popular and that he's isolated. Your thoughts on that?
No, I think Mr. Talpur is wrong on that subject. I think Mr. Khan remains quite popular as a politician. I think we have to understand that Mr. Khan also was no exception to the way Pakistani voters have reacted to governments before. A few years into a government, and a sort of incumbency effect sets in, and the voter starts questioning the performance. Pakistan's democratic continuum is a bit of a fragile construct. We have not had too many democratic transitions in the last since 2008. So the last 15 years. And we have seen the PPP in power, then we have seen the PMLN in power, and we have seen the PTI in power. And Mr. Khan was no exception to the systematic trend where a prime minister doesn't get to complete his term. I think it is a perfectly plausible idea that Mr. Khan had lost confidence of the people. And Mr. Khan, however, the vote of no confidence that was carried out was what catapulted, I believe, Mr. Khan's popularity back. And this is validated by the research that we do on public opinion surveys. And so at the moment, you have a voter in Pakistan who is young, who is new. This is not the same Pakistan. There's a high percentage of urbanized, mobilized young voters who absolutely want to have their day at the ballot box. And the demand for an election in Pakistan never really been higher than it is now, at least that we can see. And because it's so vocal, because of democratized media, we know that what the voters want. So I think we just have to understand that in one province, the province that Shandana is from, Mr. Khan probably retains a lot of popularity. In the Punjab province, which is the biggest province, which Mr. Khan's party has governed for a shorter period of time, there were issues, and that's where his popularity has taken a little bit of a hit. However, he does remain very popular, but popularity doesn't necessarily translate into constituencies at the ballot box, and Mr. Khan learned that in 2013 in the election. So,
well, hold on, a point of correction there. In the last, what has it been, 12 months, ever since he was ousted from office as prime minister, his party has won the vast majority of the elections that they ran in.
Yes. And I think that his party has won.
So it seems that his popularity does translate into the ballot box as far as he's concerned. That's my point.
And I think that if he's not on the ballot box and the political party isn't allowed to run, isn't allowed to contest in a free and fair election environment, then there is no guarantee that Mr. Khan's supporters will be able to cast that vote. That is the point that I am making. And in 2013, Khan was also very popular. However, his message didn't resonate at that time. So the Pakistani voter is a discerning voter who also wants accountability. And if Mr. Khan is popular right now, it's because the Pakistani voter is sending a message saying, we want an election, we want the democratic continuum, and we want our politicians to start working with each other.
Shandana Gulzar Khan, what's the strategy for the PTI now? From what I understand, there was already a plan in place to have a committee, essentially, to rule by committee after Mr. Khan would be arrested, because this is something that he saw coming. What's the play for you now?
So PTI, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, and Jamaat-e-Islami are the only two parties, or at least that are a significant, have a significant amount of followers and voters that are non-dynastic parties. The rest, all of them, grandfather, grandmother, son, son-in-law, sister, uncle-in-law, etc., etc. These are not democratically run parties, nor is there any democracy in Pakistan right now. It's just a bunch of families, and they want to continue to rule as they are, unfortunately for Pakistan. So in our case, there is a sequential, a hierarchical plan, and that is working. I'm part of that setup. We're working. We're ensuring that Khan is going to get the justice he deserves. Having said that, I was listening to Ms. Cheema recently with a lot of interest. I will say one thing, though. Khan did win pretty much all of the by-elections, even though the entire government machinery and all the paraphernalia that comes with it, you know, the gun, the bomb, all of that has been poised against him. He was nearly, not nearly, I mean, there were 5 assassination attempts on him till this point in time. We're witness to some of them. There have been more than 200 cases in which he's been indicted, and the entire reason that is happening is because of his unprecedented popularity. The mistake that was made by the PDM, this coalition of these people who used to hate each other about 18 months ago and would drag each other to court, and now they're all best friends. The problem here is the following. Had they had an election in Pakistan in May 22, 2 months after they removed Khan, there might have been a chance for a government with a mandate, and they could have performed. What has happened in Pakistan last 16 months is that we're on the verge of bankruptcy. Sure, we haven't defaulted yet, but the people have defaulted. People don't have food to eat. We're going through a 50-year unprecedented stagflation, as well as inflation that is killing the regular Joe. So it hardly matters that the 5% in power think that things are fine and hunky-dory. It is that very popularity at the ballot box that has them scrambling for cover. I mean, for God's sake, they found a cleric somewhere, they paid him, and they got him to say that he's living in sin with his very much married wife. So it is a case of desperation. Despite his mistakes, despite his error in judgment or whatever that may be, Khan stands today as a beacon of hope for regular Pakistanis, and not just the man on the street, the man who has a mobile phone. He stands on top with the differently abled, with the women, with the elderly, even with the retired armed forces of Pakistan. And why does he do that? Simply because during COVID, and I'll finish here, Pakistan came out as one of the top 3 economies, and we topped out on health as well. Numerous mistakes would have been made, but the man is genuine to a cause, and that cause is Pakistan. All else being equal, it's all being done. It's a witch hunt. And I'll give an example, a brief one. I'm one of those people.
Very briefly, please. I need to ask Mr. Talpur a question.
Sure, if I could just finish, that I'm one of those people who is in trouble for not taking a bribe. I can name names, I can give you numbers. I have been asked a dozen times to leave Khan, and when I refused to do so, I was charged with sedition. This is what is happening on the ground, unfortunately.
Okay, let me take it over to Mr. Talpur. Our 2 other guests have mentioned the importance and the need for elections, right? That people want to have a voice and people want to go back to the ballot box. Now, there's a huge question mark as we speak about the date of the election. I don't want to get into every little bit of detail about this, but it has to do with the census and whether these elections can be held under the terms of the census that hasn't been completely finished, and there's redistricting that needs to happen by the Electoral Commission, which is going to involve constitutional change, et cetera, several steps that will take several months. The bottom line of this is that we don't know when the elections are going to happen. Do you know, first of all, when elections are likely? And also, do you not think that this is a little bit troubling, that a popular opposition party has been thrown in jail, and just at the same time, a caretaker government is now going to have to be put in place to oversee elections? And the result of that is that an unelected body is going to run the country for an unknown amount of time, even as an opposition figure has been silenced.
Mr. President Zardari has been very clear and very vocal that he will not accept any delays in the coming elections. So now that
November 8th, then.
CCI, the Committee of Common Interest had a meeting, and they have decided to agree to the new census, which were not very popular. But because the decision has come, Mr. Zardari has been very clear, and he's given clear instruction that the election has to be in the next 90 days maximum. We were suggesting 60 days, but the Election Commission said that they need a minimum of 90 days to do the election. So we are very hopeful that the elections will be on time. And this is what suits the economy of the country. This is what Pakistan needs: fresh general elections, fair and free elections. And as far as people in behind the bars are concerned, it's been very common. We have been fighting elections. President Zardari fought elections when he was behind bars. So did Shahid Benazir Bhutto Sahiba, and so have many other leaders. So if you are popular, if they believe Khan is still popular, no one has banned the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. It is going to contest. It will have a symbol. And if it still has supporters, we'll be very happy to accept the results which come out. But if you had heard the beeper, the video recording which Imran Niazi gave before his arrest, he requested his people to come out and peacefully protest. But no city in the nation, no city in any province has had any major rallies or any support against the arrest of Imran Khan, which means that he is now alone, all by himself, and very few people like Ms. Shandana are still there standing beside him. The rest have left and deserted him, and so has the...
If I can just jump in fairness, we're recording this 24 to 36 hours after Mr. Khan was jailed, so I think it might be a little soon to say nobody's out in the streets protesting in his favor. Maybe we just give that a little bit of time before we assess whether, you know, he's still got muscle in the street. My question is, the PPP afraid of going head-to-head with the PTI in the next elections, which you have now said should be happening within the mandated 90 days? Because, again, and I'm sorry to come back to this point, but the PTI has won almost all the by-elections and provincial elections that it took part in over the last few months.
Let me refresh you. Actually, all the seats that the Pakistan People's Party fought in the by-elections from Karachi, one of our supporters, they stood there and they won against Imran Niazi. Then again, their former Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi from Punjab, our party worker defeated him as well. So I'm not sure about PMLN, the running Prime Minister's party, have been losing and winning against them. But the Pakistan People's Party, wherever we got a chance to put our candidate, we were able to defeat PTI. And you must also keep in mind, recently we had elections in Karachi, which is the biggest city in Pakistan, where Imran Niazi had proclaimed to take full victory. Pakistan People's Party was the single largest majority on number 1. Number 2, we had Jamaat, and PTI was on number 3 because MPM was not contesting. So we have our own mayor in Karachi, which was very recent, and we have seen no popularity graphs going up of the PTI, in fact, going down. So what the current statistics are telling us is that Khan is no more as famous as he used to, and he doesn't have. And normally in Pakistan, we have a trend. If there's something the public wants to go against, it doesn't take us 48 hours or 24 hours. They go out then and there. I think the only place where the PTS supporters are protesting is in their dreams, I guess.
Okay. Azeema Cheema, as a political analyst, I suppose you look at this and it's your job to try and decipher, okay, what happens next for the country, for Imran Khan and his party, and just for the political landscape in general?
Well, I think what is important to note is that very little that is going on in Pakistan's current context is unprecedented. Some things are happening at an amplified scale when most of these things have happened before. And why? And by the way, what Mr. Talpur said was correct. PPP too has gained in popularity. PPP and PTI, for your viewers, should know they don't generally contest in the same areas. They rule different provinces traditionally. So both of these parties that you have on the panel today are gaining popularity. The political party that's in trouble is really the one that the current prime minister belongs to, which is the PMLN. What we will have is there will be protests. There will be periodic protests. You have to understand there's a lot of protest fatigue as well in a population that is under severe economic duress. And Shandana has alluded to this. Look, if somebody like Shandana, for instance, cannot contest a constituency in a free and fair election environment, we can't say it's a free and fair election. However, neither was 2018. 2013 was much better. And so we've had each party at some point compromise on these principles of democracy, and no party ends up delivering in the public interest, and which is why there was a number of legislative measures that were endorsed and passed under the PTI government that were oppressive and draconian, and such as, for instance, the legislation on what we call the PICAP, or the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act. So there's a number of cases where no political party has been a reliable ally in democracy. And what needs to happen, if the democratic continuum in Pakistan is to go on, it is that there has to be a limit to the belligerence. Political parties need to recognize that they are opponents, not enemies. And one of Mr. Khan's mistakes, for instance, was not recognizing his political opposition as a legitimate opposition. All we have in Pakistan in the political spectrum is this cross-narration where political parties are constantly trying to delegitimize each other. This is a severely polarized environment.
Azeema, you're making a point, actually, that was made in our report at the very top of the show. There was a man who I believe is a resident of Attock, where Imran Khan is jailed, and what he had to say struck me. He said, I wrote it down, he said, Imran Khan started fighting with people and making enemies basically the minute he came to power, which is kind of what you're saying, that he didn't know how to treat even his opposition. And that ended up being a political fault, I mean, judging by the results and the outcome. We're going to have to wrap this up, but just one last question for you, Azeema, which is, do you see Imran a path? Sorry, go ahead.
The real crisis is the economic crisis. And for some reason, that order of priorities to address the economic crisis has not been taken. So your question about when the election is going to happen, in part, is going to depend on where the leadership of the country decides that they can rely on a group of people to take the right decisions for the economy and not take popular decisions. And that's a challenge.
All right. Listen, I want to thank all our guests for joining us in the program today. Thank you very much, Shandana Gulzar Khan, Taimur Talpur, and Azeema Cheema. Thank you, too, for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website. That's aljazeera.com. For further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter, our handle, @AJ Inside Story. From me, Cyril Vanier, and the entire team here in Doha, bye for now.